All right, guys, welcome back to the Tailwater Fly Shop podcast. This is, well, after Tommy and I got done last time, we realized that there was we only got through maybe like a quarter of what we could actually talk about.
We had such a lovely time.
We did. So we figured, hey, an hour after we were done filming, I was texting Tommy and said, let's do part two. So we're going to talk today, part two, right? So last time what we talked about was basically early life, growing up, how you fell in love with fishing, how you got into fishing professionally, to now you've been fishing professionally for how long? Like as a guide? Like running your own business, guide business?
Well, I'd say 10 years.
10 years, yeah. So a decade. Mm-hmm. And not 23 anymore.
No.
And, not on your own anymore either. No. So how that's evolved, we'll talk about this place and how this place has changed, and maybe we'll get into the to the deep dark guide culture conversation, possibly. I don't know.
We can dive into that.
We'll see if we want to dive into that, how deep we want to go into the rabbit hole, but basically how you've gone from someone who just loved fishing to now someone who's built a business around fishing, because there's a lot more to the business side of fishing than just loving it. There
is a large amount. It's just, fishing is, I would say fishing is 20% of it. Let's just say 20%. I think a big part of building a guiding business is building relationships with your people. And there's different captains that kind of model their business on, I guess, what they're trying to accomplish. You know what I mean? There's captains out there, and I'm not talking about just fly fishing captains. I'm talking about all captains. They might be docked at a hotel or a resort or something where they're just trying to turn and burn volume, and that's their goal, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. My goal when I set out to do this was build relationships with people, for these people to come back year after year, and you're kind of developing an angler, so to speak. I would say that was my goal to building my business. If I could do that, then the rest would just kind of fall into place, and it has. Oftentimes when that progression takes place with a guide, their fishing kind of goes by the wayside. They come out of the gate strong. They've been fishing by themselves or with their friends for years, and they're really dialed in on their game, and they're on fish, and they're at the top of their game, so to speak. They build a decent business, and then they it's not that they put the fishing side on the back burner, but they think like, oh, I can just continue to do the same things with these people, and they're going to be, pleased, so to speak. And I have certainly fell victim to that in some areas, but I think if you maintain focusing on building a relationship with a person, developing the angler, and never being satisfied with what you found in your fishing journey, new spots, new techniques, and techniques are situational. I have anglers that I fish a certain spot or a certain way that I might not fish that way with a different guy because maybe his skill set's better or worse. And that right there is guiding in a whole. You're taking somebody and you're grabbing this person by the hand, and no matter what, you're trying to get them to succeed. And succeed is not always bringing a fish to hand. Succeeding is having this guy leave with a feeling of, I'm accomplished, I've learned something on the day, I'm sure he's caught a fish if you've done all those things. And if you check all those boxes, typically you're gonna build a business pretty good. So that's kind of how I modeled it.
Okay. Yeah, because it seems like, so there, I guess when you look at the fishing industry, it seems like there's so many people that fish, right? But the actual fishing community, right? Those like the people that are in the business, the people that are doing it for a living, it's pretty small.
It's a small circle.
And for better or for worse, everyone kind of knows everyone, or at least knows who everybody is. And, when I moved back here, sure, there was a few like newer names that I had kind of, needed to get familiar with again, because they were people that were newer to the area or people that were younger when I moved, and so they weren't, having businesses yet. But for the most part, I mean, it's not a big, it's really not a big world. And you can meet some really cool people very quickly.
Clients and guides
for sure. I mean, it's a mix. I mean, sure, in the shop we have people that come in all the time that we don't recognize because they're new to the area or they're on vacation, but also building that culture of, when people walk through the door, they know the faces that they expect to see. They know, hey, if we have someone new here, like they notice right away, like that.
For sure.
And so, really trying to build that slowly. And I think that the slower that you try and build that part of it, the more sustainable it can be, for sure.
No question.
Because it's not just a flash in the pan type thing. And that's really the way
said.
With the shop. Like we've tried. Yeah, it's a little bit slower to do the organic stuff, but on the other end of it, like, really truly feeling like, we have customers now that if we're out of stock on something, like they'll wait for us to order it,
for sure,
instead of driving up the street to buy it.
No doubt.
And so, and that's cool. But that's something that's earned, for sure. That's not something that's given, and that's something that can be lost very quickly. So you started guiding mid 20s, right? And when you're in mid 20s, when you're making, $500+ a day guiding, right? You think you're probably rich, and wow,
every trip mattered.
Wow, if I did this 300 days a year, I could make, $150,000, and it's all, well, first of all, being on the water 300 days a year is a lot of work. It's expensive to, there is overhead, right?
Tons of it.
And now you look at how that starts to where, $500 a day can, or $800 a day, right? Like it goes quick. And then now, you're a little bit older, sure, right? Life doesn't seem to get less expensive as we get older. Life gets more expensive. Family, right? Wife, kid,
just had a baby.
And just had a baby. And just that, not even the financial side of it, but just the time side of it too. Everything's more expensive, right? Your time is more expensive. Your living is more expensive. And
everything.
So how has fishing for you been able to, we talked about how you build a business, so, financially you can sustain yourself, but also why fishing still, right? Your needs are different. Why fishing? Because there's other things other things that you dabble in also, right? With the real estate stuff,
no doubt.
But why fishing? That's always been my question.
Good question.
Is why fishing? Because, there's so many other ways that you can make a living, and that might be easier, that might be less time consuming. So why fishing?
Good question. Going back, before I answer that, you talked about building a business organically, and it takes time. It does take time. If you're going to be in a rush building a business, you're going to miss things that you necessarily wouldn't see. So I feel like I needed to say that. Yeah. But why fishing? I feel like fishing, first of all, if you like catching fish, don't become a guide. You need to be really good at catching fish yourself to tell somebody else how to do it. That's for sure. I think you have to be obviously in love with fishing and in love with the sport, but more so in love with competing. And what I mean by competing is we compete every day in life. You guys compete with other tackle shops. You compete, on that level, on a retail level, I'll say that. Guides compete. They don't even know they're competing with each other, but there's somebody trying to not steal your client, but they're trying to get business from you, and they're trying to get business from anybody and everybody. So whether you think it or not, you are competing. And I think you have to love to compete. You have to have sort of a driving competitive edge there over the next guy to be successful. But to answer your question in short, I guess, why fishing? There's so many answers to that, but I think the best answer is that it allows you an avenue into something that you're truly passionate about. And not every day am I passionate about going. I mean, if it's the last week of tarpon season and it's blowing 20 or something, the last thing I want to do is go get up and go get soaked all day and go tarpon fishing. But at the end of the day, when I'm spraying my boat off and I'm drying my boat off, I still love it. And I think that's why. It's the sense of I did what I truly love to do today, and that's fishing. I mean, that's just – but guiding has to mix in with that love for fishing. You have to love teaching somebody. You have to love building a relationship. You have to love being on a skiff with somebody and enjoying that time with somebody. I fished Jonas yesterday, like I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
First time I've ever fished with that guy. We hit it off instantly, and we didn't catch a thing, but we enjoyed our time with each other. It was great, and those are the things of why fishing. Those moments, I think that's why. You chase those little moments. You chase the moments of being on a skiff with somebody, enjoying your time with that person, and obviously catching fish. I mean, everybody loves to catch a fish on a fly rod. That's, or any fish for that matter.
Well, and I think that, like, for me, going out and catching fish, right? It happens just enough that it reminds me of why we got into this business in the first place, right?
That's
it happens. The cool moments always seem to happen like just enough or just at the right time to remind you of why
that's right.
You do this, because you talked about maybe it's one of the last weeks of tarpon season, and that's your 50th straight day on the water, you're shot. But the person that's fishing with you, this is their first day of the year.
They might have flown here from.
I mean, to you, you're like, gosh, it's the end of June or it's the beginning of July, and it's winding down. And for this person, it's just beginning.
Right. So, but you need to have that guy. Like I said, he could have just transplanted in here from Montana.
Yeah.
Saved up all of his money. He came down here and he's fishing with you for 4 or 5 days. You got to have the best attitude you can possibly have on that day, just like you did the first day of tarpon season. Just like you said, that's that guy's first day. He's just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
We're burnt. Our gear's burnt. I'm ready to just call it quits, but
he's fresh. He's ready to go.
He's ready to roll.
Yeah. And so, when those monotonous times happen, it's one of those things like you always need that thing to remind you of why you're doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And so why we do what we do. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think that, my background is baseball background.
Sure.
Playing, coaching, playing at a high level, coaching at, the highest level of high school that I could coach at. Very, very competitive. Had some really, really good players, really good coaches that I coached with and coached under, and was very fortunate to have some extremely talented players, and spend some time. It was cool. I got to spend some time ranked number 1 in the country as a high school team, and so for me, fishing though, when I was done playing, right, I didn't get to play professionally in college. The injury stuff started, and then the conversations with yourself of maybe you're just not good enough, and even if I wasn't hurt, like, do I have a shot? And
self-doubt.
Yeah, and well, also for me, it was I'd much rather tell myself that I'm done than have someone else tell me that I'm done.
For sure.
Because I think that it's easier pill to swallow. But fishing was the only thing that filled the competitive void that I was missing. It wasn't like I couldn't go play slow pitch church league softball, like where a dude's like ripping a heater in the outfield. Like that doesn't fill the competitive void, right?
No.
And I know that there's people that love that, and there's that at a high level. So, but for the most part, when you go to your Tuesday nights at the park, like you're not seeing that.
No.
But fishing was the only thing, because it was like it's me and the fish.
You're competing with the fish.
And the aspect of it that I loved is the same thing with pitching, right? So when I was playing baseball, I can make the best possible pitch. Like I can make a great pitch, and a guy still might hit it 600 feet.
That's right.
Right. Or I might make a horrible pitch and I get the guy to roll over, or he swings through it, or he pops up and, hey, I got bailed out. Well, there's nothing that mirrors that to me more than tarpon fishing, to where, you can do everything right and it still doesn't work.
That's right.
Or you can do everything wrong, and sometimes it just comes together, and
it works.
Yeah, I mean, and it works, and you're like, gosh, I don't know why that fish turned around and ate. I don't know why that fish, didn't spook, or why that fish spooked and came back. Or you have a fish lined up perfect, and he comes up and he wears your fly like a mustache, and he just decides he's done.
Not gonna eat it.
And fishing was the only thing that filled that.
Yeah, it's a competitive. It's every day. It's a competition. And I think earlier I might have said I'm competing with other guides. It's not that I'm competing with other guides. Like when I go out on the water, I'm not saying
I'm going to catch more than you today,
there's
so I win.
4 guys down the beach. Like I'm going to stack everybody up today. It's not that. It's when I say you're competing, you should strive to compete with the fish, and in turn you're competing with everybody else, and then you're gonna, if you go in every day and say I'm competing, it's me and the fish, because that's what it is, and I want to win. I want to beat his ass every day.
Yeah.
So if you go with that mindset and you have that killer mentality, but you have to kind of dial that back, because if you got to read your angler too. If you got a guy on the bow who might not be that intense, you might have to dial that back a little bit. You still have that competitive edge, but you can't be 100% just intense all day for 8 hours a day. Nobody can sustain that.
Yeah.
Especially a guy who comes a couple days a year. He's not trying to be screamed at all day, or have somebody barking in his ear what they're doing wrong or what they're not doing wrong. That you have to. It comes in waves of levels of intensity, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I was reminded to, like, so on the business side of it, right? Like, gaining clients has changed probably so much in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
To where the internet's now a big part of it. And, I was in Homosassa a few weeks ago and was kind of reminded of the old days of booking a guide. It was, you show up at the marina, you look at the signs on every slip, and the guy's got his phone number, and the guides might be standing there with no client for the day. They're just waiting for someone to pull up. Yeah, they're just waiting for someone to pull up to the dock. Where the days of that, even there, like, I'm sure that there's some of that happens organically, because it's funny. You're driving to the ramp in Homosassa, and there's not many ramps. So you drive to the public ramp there, and you probably pass 100 signs, to where this guy's guide service, and they try and have the coolest picture of a snook, and it's cool because it's like the history of it, the nostalgia of it. Like, that you're in a historic place,
Sure.
But here,
it's
right. Like, you go launch at Safety Harbor Spa, or you go launch at, Sutherland Bayou or Anclote, like, who's meeting you there and when.
That's right.
You're not showing up with your boat at the slip, just, wait. Hey, I went out and caught bait and I'm waiting to see who shows up.
No.
Like, you're booked.
You're booked.
And, we were talking about this earlier. Like, we're going to fish together a day, hopefully 2 this year for tarpon season. But, you already have your tarpon season. Like, it's starting to fill up, and we're still really a couple months from when you're really going to go heavy into it. And so how has that part of it changed? Because, honestly, like, if you just Google, like, I Googled like redfish in Tampa Bay, right? And right away there's, and I know that some of these are paid ads, but there's a lot of stuff that pops up. I mean, I could book a dozen different guides right now,
right there,
just by Googling something like that. And I know a lot of people book guides that way. It's not just word of mouth. Like, maybe you're here on vacation, you don't know who to ask, you don't know. So you look up. So how has building your brand kind of coincided with building your business?
Good
right?
question.
Because sure, you have those organic clients, but you have to build. I'm seeing a lot of similarities, by the way, with what we do.
Yeah, for sure.
But building your brand, right, is just as important as what you offer to people. So how has that been kind of something, that balance of self-promotion with also, trying to be genuine and because, not seem genuine, but be genuine.
Yes.
And really trying to say, like, hey, this is just who I am, and this is what I do, and maybe I'm not for everybody, but I am for somebody, and those somebodies that I book are the ones that I really want. So how is that how is building a brand, right? The Tommy Koulouris brand, how has that been something that has kind of changed since you started guiding?
Good question. I think clients are situational, it's a melting pot, right? You're gonna get all walks of life who are gonna want to go fishing, and it goes back to what I was saying. There's some people that are doing this for volume. There's some people who are building a business, trying to grow relationships and have the same clients for 10, 15 years. So, like you just said, you Googled redfish Tampa Bay. The guys who have those paid ads, they're turning and burning, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me mistaken here. If that's how you want to run your business, that's great. Those are turn and burn guys. That's great. I think that
those guys can help you too, though.
No question.
I mean,
if somebody who's looking for a more genuine experience of, hey, we're loading up today, and I got 400 Cadillac whitebaits in the well. We're gonna go catch trout for 3 hours.
Well, and they can take out a whole family of 5.
That's right.
And everyone can go have a
That's
good
right.
time, and that's just something that you don't do, that you don't offer.
I have a lot of guide friends that I can pass that along to, and I do a lot of that. That's just not something I'm interested in doing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's
Not
just
at
not
all.
my cup of tea. I think it's changed over time somewhat. Word of mouth. That one of my mentors taught me, if you want to build a true organic business off relationships and experiences, it's going to be done by word of mouth. And I think that's going to, obviously, that goes back to what you're saying, taking time. It's going to be a slower process of building your business. I could go spend $20,000 on Google ads, and I'm probably my phone's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not going to be the clients I want. So I went the route of taking my time, word of mouth. And I think what's changed there is there's still that still exists. I think what's changed is the people who are the younger guides that are getting into the business, they don't have that kind of patience. And it's not necessarily a personal patience. I think it's where we live, a financial, they don't have the financial patience. They need the money. And this goes back to what you were saying of dabbling in other things. Like, I'm in real estate. I truly believe that if you're going to just jump out of the gate and think you're going to go guide today, you better have a pile of cash saved up to support yourself for 2 to 3 years, or you better have another job, some sort of income.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's changed. I think the new generation of guides that are coming up, they're ready to just turn and burn and take as many trips as they want, and they're willing to pay for their click per ads or their social media pages, Twitter or TikTok, if you're into that, whatever it is. That's just, that I feel like that has changed. The internet has definitely changed that. But 20, 30, 40 years ago, guiding was all by word of mouth. There was no internet, right?
Yeah, we're showing up to the dock and punching in that phone
yeah,
number.
oh my God, look at all these fish this guy's got hanging up. He might have had 5 snook carcasses hanging up. Wow, I want to go catch a snook with this guy tomorrow, and you call him up, right?
Yeah.
Or, Alex Norris went fishing with this guy today, and he shows up at breakfast the next morning with his cronies, and man, I had a great day fishing out of Homosassa or out of Tarpon Springs or the Everglades the other day. Oh, really? Who'd you fish with? His name's so-and-so. I got his business card right here. That is how guiding businesses were built, and they are still built that way. And I feel like there's 2 different kinds of clientele, like we were talking about earlier, and I think that's what we're discussing here, obviously. Yeah. But that's the difference nowadays. That's how I see it, anyways.
Well, yeah, and you do other things, business. You don't just fit. You're not just a fishing guide. No. You also guide ducks and do the hunting side of it too.
Yep.
And really fills your year up, right? Because fishing is, a seasonal thing. What great about here is we do live in a place that you can fish and be successul pretty much year round. But the tarpon fishing is obviously a seasonal thing.
No doubt.
And, and even like the snook and redfish stuff, like, yeah, it's better at different times of year. And you can find them and do well all year.
But there's going to be
times that it's better, for sure. But I guess my thought on it would be that in the same way that you are trying to find the right client that meets up, right? Your clients are also trying to find the right guide. So a guy that calls you and says, hey, I want to fish tomorrow. And you're like, awesome. Like, and you guys hit it off. And then he says, and my wife and 3 kids want to come, then you're not the right guide for him, right? Even though that guy might be awesome and that might be a guy you want to fish with. Me. Yeah, and you're not the right guide for him. Like dude, even if I wanted to, I can't take you out. I can't take the 5 of you on my boat.
And if you're honest with that guy, like, the first, when somebody calls you to book a charter, they're vetting you. You know what I mean? They're, what's your availability? What are you guys catching right now? And you can kind of gauge what that person's going to be like on the boat just from a short conversation on the phone. So you're vetting them as well. And if it's one guy and he wants to go fly fishing and he calls me, I'm going to take him. But if it sounds like he wants to go, fly fishing, but he's super fixated on like, it's only the only way this is going to be a successful trip is if we bring a fish to hand. which I can understand that. Everybody has, they should have that feeling going into a charter. But if that's all he's fixated on and he's basing his success on, okay, we have to have we have to bring a tarpon to hand today, or it's a bad day and I'm never coming back. That guy is not necessarily who I'm trying to take fishing. I mean, that's the kind of guy who's on the boat, and he's put so much pressure on himself.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to deliver the shots, right? I'm going to give the guy shots. He has put so much pressure on himself to have this successful day that that's all he's thinking about. It's just weighing on him all day. So every single shot that lines up, he's thinking, oh my God, I got to make this happen. I got to make this happen. I got to make this happen. Versus the guy like yesterday with Jonas. Jonas is out there. He's looking at birds. He's looking at eagles. He's looking at rays and sharks, and he's being Jonas. You know what I mean? We all know Jonas.
Yeah.
So that is, and to him, that was a successful day. I mean, the guy had binos, and it was great. So that's who you want, in my opinion.
You brought binoculars. That's awesome.
So it was.
That's a guy that just loves to be out there, though.
That's it. That's the guy.
The guy that loves to be out there. I feel like sometimes it's probably hard to admit, but like we get kids in here all the time at the shop. It's like this kid loves fishing like I used to, and it's almost that like convicting feeling of like I need to be reminded of why I'm out here doing what I'm doing, and it's moments like that almost where you're like I'm in like, and I love it. Like we're here every day, right? And the shop becomes stagnant and stale sometimes because we see the same thing every day, and the only thing you notice is the stuff that's out of place because everything's supposed to look a certain way or whatever. And then you have the person that comes in or the kid that comes in, they're like, wow, like this is the nicest place I've ever been to, and you're like,
yeah, you know what it is,
like really, yeah,
this is a nice tackle.
And then you start
shop.
to look around, I'm like, this is nice.
This is a nice place we got here.
Like this is cool, and we have built something cool, and it makes you proud of it, and it reminds you of why because we got into this because we love fishing.
That's right.
But we stay in it, because like we figured out a way to that it can financially, financially provide, but also the love is what keeps you doing.
You love the sport. You love the people. You love selling things to people.
And I think that having clients like that, or having customers that come in and they're just wowed by the shop or wowed by where you took them to fish, and you put into the same ramp and you idle out of the same river and you go out to the same flats pretty regularly, and it becomes monotonous. But those little things like getting the box of T-bores in the mail, right? Like, and how excited and how giddy I get whenever we get a box
those
of
are
that,
the moments.
or a box from Nautilus, and I'm so excited to see what's in there. And I know it sounds funny, but it's those little things that throughout a week kind of remind you,
no doubt.
I love this. I get to sell fishing tackle for a living. How cool is that?
Right. And as the whole state of Florida, this is no surprise. We're struggling water quality issue wise. And being a guide and growing up fishing, and I went fishing with Saki and Ryan the other day, and we were having this discussion on the way out, like, oh man, this kind of sucks that this is taking place all over the state, and we're living in it, we're seeing this, and it's we're just this is life now. We're dealing with water quality issues statewide, so it wasn't necessarily a doom and gloom moment, but it was kind of like, man, this is tough, right? Yeah. And then we went out and we fished, and we had a good afternoon. We caught a couple fish, and we got a couple more shots, and it was a beautiful afternoon. And everybody at the exact same time, when I put the push pole down at the end of the day and I cranked the motor, we were idling off the flat, and every one of us turned around and we started having a conversation about like, man, that was really fun. This is why we do this. Like, this is, there's still some life in this place, and like this is why we fish. We fish for moments like this. And we had an incredibly organic time. Those are two of my best friends for over 20 years, and we have fished thousands of days together. But we went fishing in our backyard like we've done hundreds and thousands of times. But we all recognize in that moment that these little tiny slivers of, the older you get and the more experiences you have, things become, dubbed down, I guess I can say, right? Us going out and drifting for trout, we can't do that anymore for us to be satisfied, right? It's just not going to do it. But those little tiny moments to where you feel like, man, that was a good afternoon. Like, I had a good afternoon with my friends. I had a good and that could have been a client on the boat. It could have been y'all on the boat, whatever it was. Those are the moments, like you're saying. You get a box of T-bores in, you get giddy about it. I was driving off the flat that night, thinking to myself, the 4 hours I just spent with two of my best friends. You know, we've all caught redfish, we've all caught nice fish in our lives, but that 4 hours right there was why we do it. It's those little tiny moments.
Yeah, and I think that so many people get caught up in the, you know, I want everyone to know who I am type thing. And it's easy to fall into that here too at the shop. Like, we want everyone to know who we are. And I think part of that is just competitive business. Like, I want to be known. Like, I want to be known, and I want people to know who we are. But I think it's more of like, I want people to know who Tailwater is, right? Like, yeah, like it's, sure, is it cool when a kid walks in, he's like, you're the one on the YouTube video. I'm like, yeah, I like that. And it's fun. Like, I'm not going to lie like that. But I think that there's so much in the fishing industry that has become so much just about self-promotion and about, you know, I'm on this pro staff and I'm sponsored by this company and I do this and I do that. And we see a lot of that. And guys, I'll tell you, like, the ultimate pro staff is working in retail, because we get better deals than anyone than any program is. But like, I think that so much of it gets lost in that we do this because we love to fish. And I think that being reminded of that is important. And those slivers, right? I feel like as I get older, you know, those slivers start to be
few and far between.
They start to become fewer and further between, but I feel like I appreciate them more, and they last for longer, right? That sliver gets me through longer than it used to.
No doubt.
To where it used to be like, I need to go fish every night to scratch this itch, and like.
But now it's like, if you get a day on the water with your brother, and you guys go out and you catch a redfish, or you don't catch a redfish, and you have a beautiful day on the boat, maybe you smoke a cigar and enjoy the day.
Absolutely.
That you get back in and you go home, and now you gotta, as soon as you walk in the door, you go from fishing mode to dad mode. That's those little slivers, like you're saying, are what get you through. Like, you know, I'm gonna be 38 in a couple months here. When I was 28, like you said, I needed to scratch that itch several times a week.
Yeah.
I don't have the time to do that now.
No.
So just recently, me and two of my really good friends, Saki and Ryan, who you know, we took a little road trip and we went and fished for the day, and it was we woke up at 3 a.m. We didn't get home till midnight, but we took a day versus 10 years ago we would have taken 5 days.
Yeah.
None of us have that time anymore. But driving home that night, we didn't talk about it, but just our attitudes were, we have scratched our itch. Now we can go back to work for the next couple weeks here, and then
we're good to go.
Maybe we can do it
again.
And
we'll talk about it and make fun of each other for the next 2 weeks because someone fell, or because someone's not broke, or something like that.
Broke a few fish off.
All right, so you mentioned time, right? You don't have the time to do that anymore. Okay, there's a few reasons why, for both of us probably, the time to fish is gone, and I think family, right, is a big
Huge
reason
that
the time fishing. It's not that the time is gone or it's not available. It's that I don't want to do it as much anymore. Like, I'd rather really plan out a trip and say, like, hey, the weather's going to be good and this trip's planned, and
versus
I'm going to go do
it.
Versus trying to force it, because I don't want to. Because when I get home, right, I have a wife and 2 kids, and I have 3 people at home who I'm their most favorite person on earth.
And
right?
you gotta be dad when you walk in the door.
I have to be dad, I have to be husband, and you know, and being that and knowing when I get home, right? Like I said, there's my wife and 2 kids. Like, I am 3 people's favorite person.
Sure.
And so, you know,
the best way to put it.
I mean, and it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. But it's so fun because, you know, it doesn't matter what my day was like. It doesn't matter if it was one of those days here that it's like,
your son and daughter don't know what it was
like
about.
they don't know, and they don't care. They just, I'm dad and I'm the coolest, and they don't care.
Get on the floor and play with me.
Yeah. And I love that. And it makes me want to share this love that I have for fishing with them.
Yes.
And, and we have the little training rod at home, and my daughter likes to practice fly fishing, right, with me. And, and my son still likes to just hit with the rod. But and he's so cute. It's hard to get mad at him. Right. But the why, right? So why fishing? Okay.
That's part of the why.
A lot of that's the why, because, that's the family that you're providing for. And so now talk about to where when you were, younger, single, starting your guide business to now, how long have you been married?
I've been married, this will be our 3-year anniversary.
Yeah. So 3 years. So, you have more of your guiding career as a solo single guy than you do as a married married man and now dad.
But she was there for a lot of it.
But how has that now changed the way that you look at, let me rephrase that. How has that made appreciating what you do more important? I guess I mean, I know I'm answering the question for you, but I feel like it makes appreciating what you do more important and appreciating those times more important because of family.
For sure. So you said a lot there.
I know.
It triggered a lot of things in my mind. So if I kind of run off track
you're
here,
good.
Then so be it. But I think with fishing, and it goes back to, you asked me earlier, why do we do this? I do this obviously for the passion and the love of fishing, right? And being with people, like I said. But that why has changed since I've had a child. My son's only 4 months old, but the moment that he was born, that's your why now, right?
Absolutely.
That's your why. You come here every day and you sell reels and rods and tackle to provide for your family.
Absolutely.
So you have to have that mentality as well. Man, that's a hard question to answer. Rephrase it one more time, Alex.
No, I think that we talked about how we appreciate
my appreciation
things more,
of it.
But I think it's more, the appreciation part of it is more important. It's not that it's like, hey, I appreciate this more.
Yeah.
But I think it's more important that I appreciate it.
For sure. And it's more important to appreciate it now more than ever, like you're saying, because guiding allows, there's a lot of free time in guiding, let's be honest. I mean, you're busy.
No, but you make your own schedule.
You kind of make your own schedule. If my wife says, hey, I want to take a vacation in this month, we're going to the Keys next month, and don't block anything on these days, we're going to the Keys. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you appreciate the moments of freedom and the moments of, to me, I can appreciate a really long, hard day of work. Like yesterday, I ran a trip in the morning. And then as soon as I got in, I put my boat on the trailer. I had to go to the office, and I did a bunch of real estate work. And I got home, and I had to clean my boat up. And I remember backing my boat into the garage and going to walk in the door, and it was like, okay, now it's time to go be a dad. Yeah. And I appreciated my day of work because it allowed me to go inside and be a dad and be a husband and I had a good day, right? I had a good day of work. So I don't know. That's a hard question to answer of why I appreciate fishing as it relates to my family. I mean, there's a lot of branches there that I could go down, but I think the main branch is that I'm doing something that I love, and I think as my son grows up, he'll see that I'm doing something that I love. Well,
and I think that, not to maybe just to help, maybe what you're trying to say.
Yeah, because my brain's going in like a million different
I think
directions.
that for me, I think that I get to provide for my family doing something and being around something that I love. Mm-hmm. In terms of a hobby, in terms of something I spend my time, it is what I would choose 99 times out of 100. Mm-hmm. I joke because people ask because I enjoy golfing too, sure. Right?
Yep.
And and they're like, "Have you been golfing lately?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." I said, but I only golf on days I'm supposed to work. I fish on my days off, right?
Right.
I don't love golfing enough to go on my day off,
That's
but
right.
I love fishing enough that I go on my day off. Mm-hmm. I only golf on days I'm supposed to work, right? And so, so I think that what I'm doing is like saying, I appreciate the fact even more so now. Like I get to sell fishing tackle for a living. I had to sell fly rods, fly reels, fishing tackle for a living. And that's what gets to provide for my family. Where before it was like, dude, I get to sell fishing rods and reels, and I get discounts, and I get
For
this, and I
sure.
get that, and some of that
With
stuff's
guiding,
still cool.
with guiding, it was like, okay, so yeah, what you're saying.
I get to be on the water every single day.
I get to be on the water every single day. And before I was married or had a kid, it was like, I got a day off tomorrow. I'm going fishing.
Yeah, and
you
I
know
got
what
a
I
boat,
mean?
and
Or
I know
I'm
what
going
I'm
to call
doing,
so-and-so, or I'm going to go by myself or whatever. Like, but now, like you're saying, you can, what you're saying is totally accurate in that aspect, in that space. Appreciate it. And now I appreciate my fishery, the environment, the fish itself. I appreciate that more because of what it's doing for my life.
Yeah.
Like there was a time when, I was 20 years old and I'd go down to Boca Grande on a crab flush and we'd just wear those things out till 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't dream of doing that now. I mean, obviously I'd be too tired to do that now for one, but for two, I don't want to go bang on them like that. I would prefer to go out, get some shots, hook a few fish, and go home and appreciate the resource and the fishery because of what it does for my life and what it's done for my life, the things that it's done for me. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about all the experiences that I've had on the water. I'm talking about the people I've met. I've met you. If I hadn't been fishing, I would have met y'all, and y'all are great people. You know what I mean? That's just a small sliver of it. But those are the appreciations that I have now as it relates to my family and my life, I think.
Yeah. And for me, I think that how I've seen it kind of transform for me, like this was never what I thought I would be doing, like at all.
I never
go
thought
from
I'd be
go from
where I'm at
teaching
now.
high school and coaching to, my degrees in economics and finance. So I there was no plan to sell fishing stuff, and it was that back and forth. Like, do I get into the car business side of the family thing, or do I keep doing what I'm doing? And they both were, had their positives and negatives, and then come over here and really figure out like, yeah, I love fishing, but I didn't realize the opportunity that you had on a business side to really be able to take that love and take the knowledge. It's not even the love so much in the business. Like, yeah, we thought about it because we love fishing, but it's the knowledge of, what to have and what do people want
Sales.
and what products are and product knowledge and sales, but also still getting giddy when you get a box of reels. And so, and so that's one of those things that as we continue to build the business, right? Like upstairs, everybody that walks in this place knows that Branson is probably going to be at the front and greet them when they walk in every time. Hey, what brings you in here today? What brings you in today? What brings you in today?
Every
right?
time.
And
Except for me, it's just like, what's up?
yeah, except for you. He's like, what are you doing here? But like he is like truly for us, like he's the most valuable asset because he is so
your golden
relatable to
boy.
people. I
He's
mean,
your
he
golden
is,
boy.
and he's like he's as close to family as we have. And so, to be able to work with one of my best friends and my brothers
Very cool.
is so cool. And that part too is something that I need to be reminded of every day, as as annoying as it is sometimes, and as annoying as I'm
What
sure
an opportunity, though.
I am.
Yeah.
It's how cool is that? Like
Every day.
guys, we get to sell fishing stuff together, and we're
Get
building.
to hang out with your brothers, your dad's in here regularly, your grandfather's in here
I can bring my
regularly.
kids in here whenever I want.
What an opportunity.
And it is really cool. And just talking about it, it makes me really realize like how much I appreciate it, but also how much more I care about, and again, it's really hard to like say this without sounding like, oh my gosh, here we go again.
Yeah.
But how much I appreciate like our resource too, and how much more I pay attention to it now, and how much more I think like, before red tide was like, gosh, man, the fishing's going to suck. Now I'm like,
That's going to
wow,
direct
like,
correlation.
I really hope
to
that this
place.
gets better, because especially for the long term, because like I really hope this gets better quick, because there's a business side that starts to suffer a little bit, and especially with our local customer, like, and there's a business side to this that is directly affected, and so it truly makes you care, and whatever that level. I mean, I'm not gonna start getting into the whole like what we can do and why it's happening.
No.
But because I that's that's just not
that's a rabbit hole that we could
that's a rabbit hole I don't think I ever want to go down.
Separate conversation.
But it makes me realize that what we're doing is fragile.
It's precious.
And it should be appreciated, and it should be taken care of as best as we can.
It shouldn't be exploited.
No. And and just looking at this last year tarpon season, it was I saw a ton of fish this last year, and as many as I have before. But what I realized was Tuesdays on the water now look like what Saturdays used to, or worse even than what Saturdays used to. And you used to be able to go tarpon fishing on Saturdays until 10 a.m. and it was okay.
Now you don't even get it till 8 a.m.
Now Tuesdays, like the jet skis are packed at the causeway, and
it's tough.
And it's tough, and it's that mix of, well, I love how many people are here because that's more people coming into the shop. But I can't have my cake and eat it too because I want them all to go away when I want to go fishing.
This goes back to something you said earlier about social media and I don't know how you said it, but it became
self-promotion.
Self-promotion.
Yes.
Self-promotion is fine. People have to promote themselves, promote their brands, promote their business. That's fine. When you start exploiting a resource to do that, that's where I have a problem with that. And I think a lot of people that have been in this industry for a long time would have a problem with that. You look at, I'll go back 30 years, 40 years. You look at Homosassa. Homosassa was exploited by a couple newspaper articles. There were guys up there in bass boats throwing bass worms at them. That's not right. And that was exploited by a writer in the Tampa Tribune or the Tampa Times, one of the two, for the promotion of that newspaper. We delivered the news here first. I delivered this fishing article. Whatever. I'm sure that guy gained something from that.
Yeah. And unfortunately for the fishery in Homosassa, he was right.
He was right. I mean, it was incredible. The fishing up there was ridiculous. Because
if everyone would have gotten up there and it sucked, then they would have left them all alone.
They would have turned around.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming that for the the way Homosassa has gone, the road that has gone. The tarpon fishing's still phenomenal up there. I have a lot of guide buddies that guide out of there, and they have great fishing. But when you start exploiting a resource, for self-promotion, and I'm talking about the mass amount of media that can be put on the web today for people to see. If you're brand new to tarpon fishing, or any fishing for that matter, you can dive into YouTube or whatever media source you want, and you can actually find out a pretty good amount of information about tarpon fishing that when I was a kid, I either had to read a book, or I had to have an elder teach me, or I had to go do it. I had to go get on the water to do it. So when I see a fellow guide who's got plenty of business, it seems like, they're blasting all these media, reels on Instagram and pictures of grip and grins and, oh, we caught this many today and we did that. Well, when you show up the next day and there's 30 skiffs on the beach, you have totally removed yourself from any kind of space where you can complain. All you have done is blown your fishery up. You've blown your resource up, and now you've made it harder for yourself and harder for everybody out here. So I don't want to go too deep into that, but because the only thing that suffers from this is the resource. If I go out and I have a phenomenal day of tarpon fishing, and we fly a bunch of fish and we get shots all day long, and I post a video of it, or even worse, I call somebody that I really don't trust, there's going to be somebody there the next day. Keep your mouth shut. Do your work. When I was growing up, nobody talked about what they caught. Nobody posted numbers. Nobody said, oh, we jumped 15 fish today. We brought 5 to hand. Nobody said any of that. You got back to the dock, and I know this because I used to wash some of the guides' boats at the marina. Nobody asked anybody what they caught. Usually they were cutting them on the fillet table, but nobody said, oh man, how many did you have today, in front of their clients. No, and that's all for the guides. Guides who get back to the ramp and their clients are sitting there. Maybe I had a great day and you had a bad day, and our clients are standing on the dock, and I ask you, how'd you guys do? Oh, we didn't do so good. And then you ask me, how'd you do? Oh, we smoked them.
Yeah.
That does nothing. You're not doing anything.
Well, and it makes the other client feel like I picked the wrong guy.
I just wasted. Guy. I'm gonna call that guy.
I just wasted $800.
So you've embarrassed that guide,
yep.
and you've also exploited your resource in the same space.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of stuff I could say about that, but the bottom line is, exploiting your resource for yourself and not your brand, so to speak, more for yourself, for your peers to acknowledge you and how good of a fisherman you think you are.
Yeah.
I got a problem with that. I got a serious problem with that. And I there's no way to stop it unless social media just disappears, which that's not going to happen.
It would be nice if it did.
It would be really nice if it did.
Well, and that's something to hear too, like, I mean, what we're doing right now, like this podcast, right? Like
this is media.
It's media. It's so people know. It's so people get to know who we are and know who we are as a shop. But really, the point of what we're doing in the podcast isn't to like look at this cool new product, right? It's I would like to say that if Celsius wanted to ever sponsor us,
we need a sponsor.
Yeah, Celsius could sponsor. They don't even have to like give us any money.
Yeah. We just need cases.
We just need cases of Celly, and then we'll just promote it all the time.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, that would be awesome if they saw that and sponsored us because of it. But yeah,
of course. Why not?
Yeah,
I'll drink one.
I've
already had 4 cups of coffee.
Yeah, I mean, why not? But that balance of I want to promote our brand as much as we can,
or promote yourself.
But I don't want our brand to necessarily be recognized as like because Adam's not what makes the business successful, right? Like, our Tibor reel case is the greatest in the world, right? Like, I have no doubt. Like, it's the greatest in the world. And if you don't believe me, come in here and take a look.
It's sweet.
But that's not what makes our business. What makes our business successful is Branson.
He's a salesman. And the resource makes your business successful.
Absolutely. And our resource and the investment that we're willing to put into it absolutely makes it successful. But Branson or Brandon, like where he's someone that when people come in and they ask him, they know that they can trust what he's telling them because he's not just trying to boom, sell them something they don't need. Boom, sell them the most expensive thing. Boom. Like really trying to help people. Spend time on the phone with people.
Reading this person and what does this person need?
Yeah, like and that's the other thing too. Like if someone calls and wants to spend 30 minutes on the phone asking me about different fly reels,
gotta talk to them.
Like, but I enjoy that. And because that person is interested in it and they love it in the same way that
they have gone down the rabbit hole before they spend $700 on a reel.
Absolutely. And being able to do this with guys like, our team here, right? When you look at, we have Pat here and, Pat's in his 70s and the rest of us are I'm the old guy here besides Pat and I'm 30, right? Like everyone else is younger. And so Brandon's younger, Branson's younger, Adam's younger, Andrew's younger, and then we have Pat and who's more than twice all of our age and puts us in line and tells us that we're dumb and but that's what makes this successful more than, hey, look at me. Hey, look at what I catch. Hey, all that sort of stuff. And you know what? I'm proud of our shop.
Yep.
So when it comes to posting pictures of the shop or posting what we sell or posting our reel counter, we're going to do that because I'm proud of it.
And if you're proud of yourself as a guide and you're fishing, do it. But do it consciously. There's a man I worked for out west at Prairie Rock Outfitters, Jake Latondras. Somebody, I'm sure some people follow him on Instagram. He's not even an influencer. He's just a hell of a photographer and a hell of a man. He told me, before you post something, hunting or fishing or anything that might damage a resource or damage another person, really think about what you're doing. Think about why you're posting that. Are you posting it for likes? Are you posting it to try and gain business? Are you posting it to educate people? And I think if you take the approach of education and self-awareness, if you go at social media with that mindset, and social media can just be fun. You can just post pictures of yourself with your family doing all that. Sure. I'm specifically talking about in the hunting and fishing space here.
Yeah, business social media.
Yeah. I'm not going to go. There's a certain someone that, in the middle of tarpon season last year, posted a giant daisy chain of fish at a very well-known location who has a mass following, and this person did that, who is that helping? That's helping nobody. And all that's doing is getting him likes and views, and it's not helping anybody. So I think if we're all just self-aware of how we use media and social media, I think that everybody will be better off. The resources will be better off. It'll just be a better world.
No.
So trying to spread that message can be difficult and delicate to some people.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked building business, we've talked family, we've talked kids, we've talked self-promotion, media, like all of that aspect of it. We've talked, what you're selling, there's a lot of similarities to what we do, mm-hmm. right? What you're selling is you are providing the experience, and I'm providing the tools to help make the experience possible. That's right. And I mean, that's really what that's really what we're doing is that's right. We are selling the tools that make the experience possible. And when I look at how much fishing has infiltrated my life, okay, I mean, it starts with my t-shirt drawer, and it goes to this wall back behind, to where like I love collecting stuff. I love, having stuff. I'm a gear junkie.
Do you like looking at your fly rack?
I do. I do like coming down here and looking at it. But I think that I enjoy it not because it's like I have this. Mm-hmm. It's like I am so excited to go use that this year. I mean, like this is how my tarpon setups, right? Which for some reason I feel like I need 4 of them.
You gotta have
right.
One.
My tarpon setups are rigged and ready to go, and it's like it's hardly March, and they are rigged, and we don't live in the Keys, and it's hardly March. Like, and I'm ready to go. And we were talking about this today. Like, if I could go sit out there for 12 hours right now to possibly be able to make one bad cast at a fish,
you'd do it.
I would go do it.
You've got a problem.
And yeah, it is.
You have an issue.
And that's one of those things that it's like, this is why what I get to do for every day is so great.
That's right.
Like, because I get to help other people experience the exact same thing that I love the most. And I think that's awesome. And, when you have a good group of people around you that have the same interest that you get to share that with and that you get to work with every day. And we have customers that come in that we've built that are not customers anymore, right? They're friends that just happen to buy their stuff from us now, mm-hmm. right? Or, you have guides that it was, hey, can you help us out with this? Or can you do this? And now we have a mutually beneficial professional relationship, but also a friendship. And that's the coolest part of it to me is that fishing is something that transcends. Anybody can fish.
Anybody.
Like my 1.5-year-old son can fish, and my 85-year-old grandfather can fish.
And their levels of enjoyment or their levels of success are different.
Absolutely, they're going to be different. And I think that being reminded that, especially in the fly fishing world, right? I was told by this, and it scared me to death. But it's like a business opportunity, but it also kind of scares me. But I think it only scares me if we don't use this information correctly. I was told yesterday by one of our manufacturers reps that we deal with that the saltwater fly fishing category is the fastest growing category in the entire fishing, not fly fishing, the entire fishing industry. Right. And so for me, the first thought is cha-ching. Okay. But on the other end too, but here's what I've noticed. It's not people that are new to fishing. Mm-hmm. It's people that are coming over from mm-hmm. the conventional side of saltwater fishing that are getting into fly fishing. And that part to me is cool because the more people that are throwing flies and not throwing pilchards, the better our fishery is going to be.
No doubt. And we have a very low impact.
A very, very low impact.
Yes.
And I think that the nostalgia, here's why I love when a box of T-Bores comes in. Okay. You ready? I have nameplates with my kids' names
ready to go
for 2 reels. They're both sitting right over there, mm-hmm. ready to go for when they're old enough that they get their first setup.
That's right.
I love that. And whenever someone comes in and they buy something like a T-Bore, for mm-hmm. example, like that's a life, like that's something that if they don't sell it on microskiff, like
It's a lifetime reel.
they can hand it down to their kid, to their grandkid, and they can use that for a lifetime of enjoyment.
Yes.
And I really do like that, and I really do enjoy that part of it. And I think that on the business side, the retail side, not the business side, on the retail side of it, I think that selling products is fun and it's great, but selling products you love
even better
is even better. And the fact that I can convince people that, the stuff that or that people love the stuff that we love too makes it that much cooler. And I think that for you, probably your favorite thing to do in the world, hobby wise, I think that you're like me, right? I don't know where the love for duck hunting, how far that goes.
I'm a junkie for both of them.
But to be able to be around like-minded people that are just as nuts about tarpon fishing as you are, or fly fishing in general, like redfish, I enjoy catching redfish. Redfish kind of scratch the itch, but it does not do the same thing that a tarpon does.
It's just different. I mean, obviously a tarpon's big, it jumps, it pulls hard, but I don't know. I think it's a nostalgia
predator
thing.
It's something that's totally different, right?
Oh,
like than what you would ever do anywhere in anything. Like it is a predator that is coming towards you.
Predator.
That is coming towards you, and you are seeing it, like trying to entice it to eat.
You're dancing.
To eat hair.
You're dancing, and there's a lot there you said about the history and the nostalgia surrounding tarpon fishing and T-bore reels. My earliest memory of a fly rod is probably my uncle's, mid 90s. I'm probably 10 years old. He had all these T-bores, and I was just like, wow, this is that. And they all had his name on them, and his name is Tommy.
They were all
Koulouris.
probably gold, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah.
And they were all on Sage RPLXIs, and like,
ooh, that's old school.
Old school. They were. I actually broke.
That's a heavy setup. That's a heavy setup.
I broke all of those rods.
Yeah.
But anyways, the history and the nostalgia that surrounds fly fishing that was my draw to it. I mean, I love the history of hunting and fishing and everything that goes with it. Reading in books when I was a kid of, all of these records being caught in the Keys and so winning a gold cup, and, reading stories about Steve Huff and how just envisioning this guy as a young man, trying to raise a family in the Keys and guiding in the backcountry of the Keys when there was no GPS, there was no four-stroke motors, there was no skiffs. If anybody's fished the backcountry of the Keys or Florida Bay or the Everglades, the amount of effort and quite frankly the balls on some of those guys to do what they did is just incredible. It's remarkable. If you've ever driven in the backcountry of Florida Bay or the backcountry,
it's scary with electronics. If you've never done it, yeah,
it's insane. I mean, you pull out of let's just say you pull out of Chokoloskee. You pull out of Chokoloskee and you start driving around. Yes, obviously everything looks the same, and if you didn't have a GPS, you might end up getting lost. Well, those guys didn't have that. They didn't have radios. They didn't have spots, EPIRBs, none of that.
No, they're tying towels or piece of plastic to a tree limb so they can see it on their way back, probably. Like,
that's real.
Yeah.
I mean, my uncle fished Chokoloskee. He passed away, but he told me that he would carry a spool of ribbon tape with him, and when they would go into some of these really back bays out of Chokoloskee, he would tie pieces of ribbon on the trees and grab them on the way out. You know what I mean? But all of that, I think, is just super cool about what we do and what this world of fly fishing is. I understand people's draw to it. It is an incredible sport.
It is.
Just, obviously catching fish and watching fish eat feathers, like you said, but the history that surrounds saltwater fly fishing is so deep, man.
And it's crazy how deep it is because of still how young it is.
Yeah.
Like you look at the pioneers of saltwater fly fishing.
Yes.
A lot of them are still alive.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of them are still fishing.
Still fishing. Steve Huff gets in his skiff every day. I saw him at the ramp I saw him on the way to his ramp.
Yeah.
In Chokoloskee the other day. That guy fishes every day, daylight to dark. He's out. And my uncle just fished 3 days with him down there, or his son, Chad. They're on the water. He's on the water every single day, whether he has a charter or not, and he's still guiding. His clients might be guys that he's fished for 10, 15 years, but he's still guiding. He's in his 70s.
Well, I mean, that's a long. I mean, that's a lot of time on that. I mean, but even like if you go up in Homosassa or wherever else, Al is,
Steve Kilpatrick
is still fishing hard.
Al fishes Tom Evans. Well, I think Tom had a couple health issues last year, the year before, and maybe COVID got in the way. But I mean, Tom will still come down and they'll get on the skiff and they'll go fish a 10-hour day.
Yeah.
And they'll sit out there and
They
guess what?
Hundreds of thousands of hours on them.
Hundreds and thousands of hours and lost fish, and just the stories that and the things that these guys endured to catch these fish on flies is just remarkable. The ingenuity that they had to come up with. They pioneered so much of the techniques that we use today that we don't even know we're using.
Or we don't know that they're the ones that pioneered it.
Correct. That's right. And one thing that I do want to touch on is that kind of just sparks this. A lot of guys are fishing. Let's just talk about tarpon fishing. A lot of guys are tarpon fishing with what Brian DePere calls a homeboy leader. Mm-hmm. Straight 50, straight 60, whatever it might be. You're disrespecting those guys by fishing that way. Those guys did it right by fishing IGFA legal with light tippets, because that's what fly fishing is. You're
handicapping yourself.
You're handicapping yourself, and you're disrespecting the sport, in my opinion, by doing it any other way. And if your clients have a problem with it, then they need to put a spinning rod in their hand. Mm-hmm. Because that's not fly fishing, in my opinion. You're presenting a fly to a fish, and you're holding a fly rod in your hand. But when the fish gets on the string, it allows you to make more mistakes than you should be able to. You know, not letting go when you strip set and the fish takes off. I did that the other day. I broke a fish off. All of that is disrespecting the sport. You're disrespecting the people who pioneered these techniques that we're using today. So I feel like that needed to be said, and I feel like everybody.
And it doesn't. I mean, and it doesn't. It's been proven. I mean, with what Andy Mill has done, showing with some of like the measuring that you can do and how you pull on a fish. Like, first of all, very few people can actually put 16 pounds of pressure on a fish.
It is extremely difficult.
But second of all, you can't land a fish any quicker because you're using straight 60.
It's mental.
Like, and in fact, a lot of people would say it even takes longer because you're not pulling the way that you should be pulling. You're not pulling up the fish's back. You're just pulling whatever way that you want.
If somebody's breaking rods, I hear all the time, oh, so-and-so broke a rod on a fish the other day. I'm not saying you can't break a rod if you're fishing IGFA legal. But 9 times out of 10, if somebody breaks a rod on a fish, it's because they're using a homeboy leader and they're pulling way too hard and pulling improper. That's what it does. It allows you to make mistakes that you're not going to make fishing 16 or 20. Yeah. So do yourself a favor. Go try and do it. Up the game. Make it a little bit harder on yourself. And I understand if a person's only going to catch 1 or 2 tarpon a year that, you know, they want to land the one that they're going to hook. I get that. I totally understand.
Or if you're solo.
Or if you're solo.
If you're solo, you should be fishing 16 max, in my opinion. Because I do a lot of solo fishing. And it is, if I was connected to something and I couldn't break off, like, it's dangerous. Like, forget the fish. Forget the fish. I don't mean that. Like, it's dangerous. Yeah. And, like, you're getting dragged into the pass. You're getting dragged out to whatever, and you can't chase the fish down the same way that you can if you have a guy that can chase up at the engine.
Nope.
And, I mean,
God forbid you wrap yourself up, and anybody who thinks that a fly line won't hurt you with a tarpon on the end of it, or any line for that matter, just see how much power that fish has. Really grab onto it if you're fishing a homeboy leader and wrap it around your finger. Let me know how that feels.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it is, and it's one of those things that, like, it can, you know, forget the health, you know, the health of the fish is important, but it's, dangerous. I mean, it's one of those things that
it is.
You need to be able to pop a fish off, and quite frankly, landing it by yourself is not,
you don't, first of all, to land a tarpon by yourself.
I've done it once and I'm good.
I've done it. You have to exhaust the fish.
Yeah.
You have to exhaust the fish to get to the point to where you can grab him by yourself. Yeah. So,
all right. So I never feel like we're done, and I'm sure this won't be the last one that we do together. But to kind of recap, I think that as we've both grown into fishing turning from a passion to a business, mm-hmm. and to a way of life and a way to make a living, I think that, yeah, there's a lot of differences in what we do, but I think there's more similarities, you know, really. And, you know, really just learning how to appreciate, you know, I'm a recreational fisherman. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm in the fishing industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, like, I don't get paid to go fishing.
No.
Right? I get paid to sell stuff.
You might one day.
Yeah, maybe. And I don't get paid to go fishing, but but as a recreational angler or as a professional angler, right, and professional guide, like I don't guide. I was very much I like to fish too much to guide. So I'm not one of those people that tries to say I love being on the back as much as I love being on the front. I'm like, no, I want to be on the. I want to be on the front.
bow. That's the advice to my son when he grows up.
But the things that fishing have afforded us and the fishing industry has afforded us, is something that I think that has only been is something that I've grown to appreciate more over time. So, but yeah, I just want to thank everybody for listening.
Thank you, Celsius.
Thank you, Celsius, for getting us through. Crack a Celsius while you're listening to us.
Thank you, Adam, for setting us up here.
Thank you, Tailwater.
Thank you, Tailwater. Yeah. Thank you for the resource. Cheers to the resource.
Cheers to the resource.